次の映像では、FOX ニュースは共和党の立場を解説し、民主党が国際上限問題を起こしていることを明らかにします。今、アメリカの国際上限は話題となっていますが、日本のマスコミは民主党の視点からしか見せていません。そのため、弊団体は共和党の立場をお届けしたいと思います。マスコミを見ると、共和党が問題を起こしていると聞いていると思いますが、実際はバイデン政権と民主党が妥協を拒んでいるのです。バイデン政権は、よりバランスの取れた解決策を打ち出すために共和党と交渉することを拒否しているとさえ言っています。これは民主主義ではないでしょう。共和党は財政的責任を果たすために国際上限を上げるのに、支出赤字の対策を考える必要があると主張しています。増税は国民から金を奪うことになる。国債を発行すると、次世代に負担がかかる。さらに通貨をもっと発行すれば、通貨の価値を下げることになる。唯一の責任ある解決策は、支出を削減し、理想的には予算を均衡させることである。これはアメリカ保守派の考え方です。日本のマスコミはこのことを報じないので、ぜひ最後までご覧ください。
But let's turn now to focus on the other big political story of the moment, and that is the debate about the debt ceiling. This week, America hit its debt ceiling, prompting Janet Yellen to take what she called extraordinary measures to delay a default until June. You know what would really be extraordinary? Janet Yellen actually taking some responsibility for the years of destruction she has wrought on our country. It's hard to think of a single person on the planet who's done more to hurt Americans economically. As chairman of the Fed, she led the monetary boom that goosed the assets of the uber-rich while stoking the inflation that crushed the poorest. As Treasury Secretary, she pushed the massive, reckless Biden spending that fueled the inflation fires she created. And now, when House Republicans demand accountability and fiscal sanity, she says, nope, not happening. We have to raise the debt ceiling. So, our children and grandchildren have to pay for Yellen's mistakes. And that's their position.
We will not be doing any negotiation over the debt ceiling. We should be dealing with the debt ceiling without conditions. We're not going to negotiate on this. So we're just not going to negotiate about that.
What? It's their job to negotiate. The voters chose divided government. When Democrats win, they say elections have consequences. But when Republicans win, Democrats just ignore it and carry on as before. You might even call it election denying. So yet again, the people who shout the loudest about our democracy are the ones undermining it. Republican demands are not exactly outlandish.
Find the common sense compromise that puts us back onto a balanced budget that I believe every household, every state does this, every city, every county. Why would the Democrats sit back and say, just raise it with no discussion?
That's not even a partisan point. Here was Joe Manchin this morning.
Every American has to live within a budget. If they don't, they're in trouble financially. Every business that's successful has to live within a budget. Every state has to live within a budget. Shouldn't the federal government have some guardrails that say, hey guys, you're overreaching here and you're overspending?
And of course, to no one's surprise, Biden is lying about all this. According to Biden's own budget proposal, America's debt will nearly double in the next 10 years. And what's demented is the fact that in less than a decade, between 2014 and 2021, the budget of the federal government just about doubled. Doubled! Does anyone think the government has gotten twice as good? They can't blame the pandemic. Forget the fact that all that spending was compensating people for lockdowns that never should have happened in the first place. The pandemic's over, but the budget's still going up. They can't blame Social Security and an aging population because that's only 15% of it. What about the other 85? Yes, we do have an aging population and we do need to protect Social Security, as President Trump argued just this week. All the more reason to rein in the rest of the spending so we don't make our seniors pay for the government's bloat. The federal workforce is now over 9 million. In a bureaucratic monstrosity so sprawling and unaccountable, they can't even tell us how many departments and agencies there are, let alone what they do or why they're needed. Take it from someone who's worked inside a government machine. Most of them are not needed. Worse, most of them are not even constitutional. Let's remind the swamp of the 10th Amendment. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states, respectively, or to the people. Democrats and the media scream and squawk that spending control means unimaginable pain for America. What planet are they on? Reducing spending isn't some crazy right-wing fantasy. If we just went back to where we were at the end of the Obama administration, we'd be cutting it by almost half. Look at the contrast between the government and the private sector. Tech companies massively expanded in the pandemic. Now, circumstances have changed, so they're cutting back. When do you ever see the government doing that? This massive debt we have, it is all the result of irresponsible politicians spending money we don't have. It's been nearly a quarter century since the federal government spent less than what comes in. We entered this century with a surplus. Then George W. Bush blew it by spending trillions of dollars on disastrous foreign wars that he lied us into and which did more harm than good. No more. No more irresponsibility. No more stupid political games. It is time to get serious.